we start a business and we want to do a million things, right? We want to do sales. We want to do this. We want to do that. And it is so important. I think as you grow businesses and the more experience you have, you truly understand that it's about staying in your lane, right? And not doing a million other things. And I've had the opportunity to grow into other segments of this business, even just going outside of insurance agents, right? Like maybe I go after real estate agents, maybe I go after attorneys, but I really decided to stay true to this, focus on it. And I think it's been a big part of my success, right? It's because I haven't spread myself across so many industries, but rather focused on one thing. There's a great quote that I always listen to and follow, which is you can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? You really have to pick your lane and you got to stick to it and give it time.
Welcome to the Spotlight Session. It's a game-changing interview series that showcases award-winning agency owners to share secrets of starting and scaling a marketing business.
Hey, welcome everyone to another podcast episode here at HighLevel. My name is Paulson Thomas. We call these segments the HighLevel Spotlight Sessions. And I'll tell you, I've got a very special person today, Oscar. And Oscar and his story is so unique. He came from the insurance space, and before that, he was already a digital citizen in the e-com world. And he cracked a couple of codes for the insurance agents that he works with. I believe over like 400 or 500 now. And you've proven your own system and strategies. And our goal for this segment is to kind of uncover that and unpack what's working and what's not working. So we've titled this segment on how Oscar put together a system that generates over 250 plus appointments a month for his business, specifically working with the insurance industry. And to kind of help you guys just kind of understand who Oscar is, first of all, Oscar, tell us your story, man. Thanks for saying yes to us. We're excited to hear from you.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. This is it's incredible the amount of work and like technology that's been packed into one system with HighLevel, and it's revolutionized my business. It's grown my business tremendously, and so it's an honor and super grateful to be here and spend a few minutes with you guys. So a little background. Gosh, man, I've been in digital marketing in some sort of fashion since 2012. So in 2012, I started an e-com business that selling products before Amazon became Amazon. And a buddy of mine and me, we started this thing out of basically our closet in my apartment, and we grew this business to $7 million a year. Selling all types of consumer goods, right? A lot of before, again, Amazon and phone cases and stuff like that were selling super common. We were selling these things ourselves. And in those 7 years, I grew an entire business completely built on affiliate marketing, digital marketing, and running product ads for all the different SKUs that we had. We made Inc. 5000 a couple of times. I had a complete staff in China of people that were sourcing goods. We had an office in China. And so it was an incredible adventure and an incredible journey. In 2020, I sold out of that business, and I had a little bit of time to think and try to figure out what I was going to do and where I was going next. And I had a lot of friends that have been in the insurance business for quite a while and were doing really great at it. And so I decided to kind of take a leap. And so my first kind of exposure to the insurance business was with a buddy of mine who was running a almost 8-figure agency of private health insurance. And his model was really based on calling age data through call centers offshore, right? And so it was a system and a model that worked really well for him. But at some point that started dying out, and he knew that he needed help in figuring out how to generate leads and not be so dependent on lead vendors. And so I came in as basically his media buyer, and I helped him transition from completely relying on lead vendors and age data to actually generating those leads himself using social media. And I did that for about 8 months. I was offered an opportunity to be a partner with these guys, and I really passed on it. I had just gotten out of a partnership for a long time, and so I really wanted to start and be on my own and kind of find that different journey of not having partners in a business. And so I declined, but I identified the opportunity in insurance. And so I became an agent myself. I went and got licensed, and I started doing health insurance. And right from the beginning, I tested by buying a few batches of leads, but I understood very quickly that there was a real formula and a real model to success in generating your own leads and having control of that marketing. And so that's what I did. And 4 years ago, I started running insurance ads on TikTok, which at the time nobody was doing. It was something very new. And because there wasn't a lot of competition on the platform, I mean, I just blew up with appointments, with sales, and I used Go HighLevel to manage all of it. Right? It was an incredible tool. It has been an incredible tool. Now, fast forward where we are, I became an agent, and from doing those things, right, from generating my own leads, from having success, writing the amount of business that I did, I started getting other agents like reaching out to me. So I've been a presence on social media since I started. And so agents would just reach out and say, "Hey man, what are you doing? How are you generating leads? How are you getting these appointments?" And gosh, I think a few months after that, right, a year just about to the date of me writing my own insurance, I saw the opportunity, right? I saw the need across the board in the insurance industry for agents having that control, right? Of generating their own leads and having that system versus relying on lead vendors. And HighLevel became a backbone of how I was going to create my offer and then deliver my offer to clients. And again, 3 years ago, last December, I launched Scale My Social, which is a complete done for you kind of system model where we work one-on-one with insurance agents and now agencies to build not just advertising campaigns using every major platform out there, but very important, what happens once that lead is generated? How do we nurture it? How do we stay on top of it? And over the years, implementing all the things that HighLevel has been able to roll out with AI and just super, super exciting things. And here we are, 400 agents later, dozens of agencies have gone through our program, and we continue to kind of be what I think is, pretty up there with some of the other big boys that are out there helping agents, so that's the
Absolutely.
story, a quick recap, man.
Yes, I love it. As you guys are just jumping into this episode, you're probably watching it across all the platforms that we are live right now. And I'll tell you, everything we're sharing, don't assume that you're going to be able to go make a bunch of money. This is not any revenue oriented claim at all. Our goal is to help you realize and see the pros and cons, the good and the bad and the ugly that all comes with behind building a business. The tears and the sweat and the late nights of stress no one's going to see from this conversation, but there is that side to it. So I just want to reiterate that across all viewers here that, our intention is not to help you feel or make you think that this is quick, get rich quick kind of a thing. But Oscar, I think there are three things that we can talk about when it comes to how you used HighLevel as your housing to
Mhm.
generate 250 plus appointments a month. I'm thinking the first one is how you got the high intent leads, the strategy that attracts those leads. Two is automating the visibility and the engagement. And obviously, maybe three is scaling your personal brand to it. I know that was a huge component for you as well. Can
Yeah.
you share, the beginning of the business? Like, what were the first milestones? Like, how did you get to the point of hiring your first person? Like, help us understand that early stages and how you used HighLevel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important, the comments that you just made a second ago, right? That it's not just a fast track to money, right? Business is up and down. There's challenges every single day, no matter the level of business you are, right? Startup has its own challenges. And then you start making a little bit of money, and the second set of challenges appear. And it is important to know that for me, HighLevel has been a tool that I used to grow my business and scale my business over the years. It was never about just selling HighLevel as a platform, right? It was the tool that I used in the background. And so how I got to where we are today, right? It was lots of nights of no sleep, right? Lots of stress and figuring out things that didn't work, and then taking a step back, readjusting and taking a step forward. And I think in business, that's what it's really about, right? Is understanding that process and that journey. And you have to be ready to fail. You have to know that you're going to try multiple things that are not going to work before you get to the thing that really takes you to where you always have wanted to be. And so for me, when I started this business, even though I had an ecom background and I had digital marketing background, selling products through ads and generating a lead were two totally different things, right? I had never generated leads for anybody else. I had the knowledge of how to do it, but I had never actually done it. And when I started this business, one of the main components that I used to set myself apart from anybody else out there was the creation of video creatives, right? Using videos in my ads versus images, which in the insurance business, that's really all that existed up until a few years ago, right? Most agents that were running ads or even lead vendors that were running ads were only using images. And so I came out with this done for you system. And my difference was that we were creating videos as part of these packages for clients. And so those first few months, I had to figure out how to create videos, right? Because I had never done,
Yeah.
again, lead generation videos about insurance. And so it was a lot of learning, testing, and then adjusting and going again. And it was incredible. I launched on December 19th, right? 3 years ago in this before this last December. And I created a funnel, right? A true funnel that I created on HighLevel. And that funnel took people through a VSL of me talking to them about how I was doing 250, 270 appointments myself, and how I was now going to teach others to do the same thing. And I took people through that journey. It was really important to me to explain that process and walk people through it. And I remember it went live, right? I put this thing out live. I had done an affiliate deal with another big person in insurance. And within 3 hours of it going live, I had my first person go on, click, and buy my package. They spent $3,000 without ever speaking to me. And it was the first time I had sold something of that amount, right? Because I come from selling phone cases and home goods that cost $20 and $30. So it was a very, very big change. But once I got that first sale, I immediately proved the concept, right? I knew that I could better it. I knew that I could improve. I knew that I had something here. And so that was my very first milestone. It was like, all right, I need to sell one of these. And then if I can sell one, then I can sell 1,000, right? I'll have to make changes. That was my very first milestone. That order came in. I had to go make the videos. I had to put all of this together. And so it wasn't easy, right? It was really tough to kind of find my groove in all of that. And I said, if I can sell now 10, then I'm going to go hire someone to come and help me with the video creatives or with the HighLevel setup. And that's what I did. I
Yeah.
sold 2 and then 10, and that's what
Yeah.
I did. And everything that I've done up until this point has been with some sort of goal in mind, short-term goals, long-term goals, which I think are so important for business in general.
Yeah, I love that. For those that are watching and they're brand new in the world of marketing, when we are referring to the word agencies in this context, we're talking about an insurance agency or a firm. We're not talking about a digital marketing agency, just for clarity. And
Correct.
Oscar, if you can go back and define or how you define what a funnel is to you, I think it'll help the audience because then some people assume it's just a landing page, but in my mentality, it's not just a landing page, it's the top of the funnel of how you bring in traffic, then how you convert the traffic, then you follow up with the traffic. Is that how you look at it as well?
Of course, yeah. A funnel isn't just a landing page, right? The landing page is just what people see, the first thing that they see when they come to you right after an ad, if you're running an ad. But for me, a funnel has many steps, right? Because step one, we're going to run the ad, right? Top of the funnel ad. Person sees it, has some interest in your product or service, clicks on it, and now they're either going to fill out a lead form or they're going to buy something. Well, if they fill out a lead form, that's not a sale, right? Now you just have someone that has interest in your product or service. Now what happens? And so the funnel is exactly that, right? The steps that happen that will bring the person eventually to a space after nurturing sequences of emails, sequences of text messages that get that person to finally say, okay, I'm ready to speak to someone. I'm ready to hear what you guys have. I'm ready to get that presentation that you want to deliver to me. Because, like, every business or every product and service that somebody creates, you're going to have low hanging fruit, right? People that you don't need to nurture, that are just ready to buy and connected with your message. But that's not the majority of the sales, right? The majority of the sales comes from having a real system, right? So for me, it was step one, the ad, right? Step two, the lead is generated by registering to see my video sales letter, right? My landing page. Step four, now that lead is in my HighLevel account. Now I have nurturing sequences that are texting that person and saying, hey, thanks so much for showing interest in my product or service. And then I go right into confirming bits of information that that person provided on my lead form. My goal with SMS engagement is just that. I'm not looking for my SMS to sell my product or service. I'm looking for it to give me engagement. Because if someone responds to me, now they're in the funnel, right? Now they filled out the lead form. Now they respond to my text message. Now I have that engagement. Now I truly know that this person has interest in my product or service. And then
Yeah.
from there, phone call immediately, right? And if I can't get the person on a call or to present, then I create a series of nurturing sequences that go after that person day 2, day 3, day 7, day 30, day 60. And depending on what you're selling, some folks might not buy for 2, 3 weeks. Some people might shop around for 3 months before they actually make a decision. So if you don't have a funnel and a nurturing sequence, gosh, you're leaving so much money on the table. And I learned that through trial and error, right? Through understanding that, gosh, here's this person that I talked to 3 months ago. And all of a sudden I sent them a text right through my funnel and they responded, right? And I get on the phone with this person and we have this great conversation and they're like, I'm ready to buy. I shopped, I went here, I went there. And thank you so much for following up with me because I had forgotten about you, right? And so the experience that a lead goes through is so important to be able to capture and maximize every dollar that you're spending, whether it's on paid ads, affiliates, whatever it might be.
And what do you mean by high intent? When you say high intent in that beginning stages that you described, you said high intent mattered the most in that beginning stage. Help us understand what you do to create that high intent. I know you just described a ton of like mechanics that you use for the high intent. Can you talk about the psychology and how it benefits us if you do create that high intent format?
Absolutely. So as a marketer, right? And I'll use my own brand as the example. So for me, a high intent lead is one that searches and finds you, not the other way around, right? That's what I have found at this point to be what I would call a high intent lead versus me running an ad and finding somebody with maybe some interest. And so what I did right away when I started this business, and I did it as an agent, and then I saw it work so well that I did it once I started this business. And that is, I started making myself a presence on social media from day one, right? I made it a point in making sure that I was putting out, for me, educational content. When I was an insurance agent, I was putting up videos every single day, right? About what is a deductible, what's an insurance payment, what's a co-insurance, just all the educational stuff that people, consumers, are confused about every single day about insurance. I went out and I searched what are the most common search things in insurance for health insurance. And then I made content to speak to that. And what I found is that by doing that, it wasn't overnight, right? It wasn't overnight that it started working. But I got to a point where all of a sudden I was getting 2 to 3 appointments a week on my calendar. Then it went to 5 to 10 appointments a week on my calendar. Then it went to 30 to 40 appointments. And that's how I grew what I consider to be high intent organic traffic, right? People that are actually looking, right, and searching for the things that I have for them. And I connected that piece by creating educational content and providing value to people out there versus trying to sell them something. And even now to this day, if you go on any of my social media channels, I seldom will actually ask for something from people, right? Everything that I post is just educational content that can help an insurance agent or an agency owner generate a lead, sell better, nurture, any of those things. And over time, that has now built me an organic, high intent system where people are finding me, they're searching for us, versus what I would consider to be lower intent is when I just run an ad. And I think we need those things, right? You have to leverage paid ads as you're growing organically. That was my strategy that's worked over and over again. Is I don't get away from posting organically, even though I know that that's a longer timeline. I use paid ads to leverage and to continue my funnel getting leads as I grow and build my presence and my organic content.
I love that. Let's talk about the second discussion point, which is automating and creating visibility for things like engagement, workflows, DMs. Um, I know HighLevel was your housing for that, but help us understand the strategy behind automating that visibility.
Yeah, this was something that for me was brand new, right? When I came into this business, I knew that I needed something that was going to help me engage with people, right? As leads came in, because I understood that for me to be successful as an insurance agent, I needed to have activity, constant activity. I needed to have leads coming in. And if I was on the phone with someone and didn't have a chance to send an email or to send a text message to a new lead that just dropped, I needed to find a system that could provide those things for me. And so what I did is I went out and searched, right? I searched all the different platforms that are out there. And for me, HighLevel provided ease of use, right? It encompassed all these different things that I wanted, that I knew I needed and wanted. I didn't necessarily know how to create them, but I knew that they were out there and I knew that people were using it. And so once I did my research and I said, no, this is the platform that I'm going to use, I went all in, right? I understood what a workflow was, and triggering a workflow has to come from you understanding or at least planning the journey of that lead, right? You have to give it a journey and how you're going to trigger an email, trigger an SMS. And so I did that, right? I sat down and I said, okay, if my person is on social media, a consumer looking for insurance, let's say, well, I understood that nobody is on Facebook looking for insurance, right? They're not going on Facebook to find health insurance or life insurance. They're going on Facebook to disconnect, right? To scroll through their feed. And so I knew that step one was make creatives that would catch people's attention. Step one. Step two, now I have your attention. How can I entice you and motivate you to fill out my lead form, right? Once I have that, now I need these leads to drop in somewhere. HighLevel became that place. All the leads go in there. And now I understood that I needed to quickly, as soon as that lead came in, create both an email and a text message that goes out to that person. And very quickly, not long-winded, but very quickly and short, say, hey, thank you so much for showing interest in, insurance. Just to confirm, I have your zip code as, right? I don't need to introduce myself. I understood that very quickly through testing because I did different text messages where I would introduce myself and talk about all these things. People don't care about that, right? People want to know what you can do for them as quickly as possible and why they should give you any time. And so through that trial and error, I understood those things. And I further understood that, like I said before, the engagement, the SMS, the workflows, they're never going to be the tools that close a deal for you. What these things do is they help you identify who has more interest, right? Because if now somebody stopped scrolling and clicked on my ad and then filled out my lead form, and now they're in my CRM, and now they answer my quick text message confirming a piece of data that they gave me, well, now I've made that transition, right? Now we're communicating. And I use that to build the rest of the flow, which then became, okay, if somebody's answering my text, I need to quickly call that person because there's no better time than when that person just filled out the form or just answered my text message. And that's how I built it, just creating that flow of the lead.
Yeah. The funny part is, I'm sure your vision of what a customer journey looked like in the beginning of your business. But if you fast forward maybe after 400 clients that you've served plus, and now if somebody asks you what does customer journey look like, I'm sure there's some sort of a difference there. Can you help us understand your first layer of draft mode of what customer journey looked like versus what it is today? Like, what is the evolving? What is the advancements that you saw now?
Yeah, it's definitely changed and has updated several times, as we've grown and as we've really understood what the real pain points of a consumer are, right? And if I talk about like Scale My Social and helping agents, initially what I thought the biggest need was videos versus images, right? That was what I led with, and that's what I talked a lot about. But I quickly realized that the pain point that agents have is they need a reliable lead source, right? They need leads that can come in constant and without being clickbait type of ads, which is what was out there most common, right? And so I didn't really understand that. But as I started dealing with clients and speaking to them, I understood that that client journey was, yes, good creatives, but really the entire system needs to work properly for them to be getting the constant lead activity that they need to be able to make money. And then further, right, it changed again when I really understood that, hey, maybe an agent doesn't need to be doing life insurance, health insurance, Medicare, all these different lines of insurance, right? That many people get into the insurance business with that mentality. They're like, oh, I'm going to do health insurance and then I'm going to do life insurance and I'm going to be a master of all, right? And I was trying to cater to that, right? I was trying to sell to that because that's what I thought people wanted and that's what people thought they wanted too, right? And then truly understanding as I started dealing with more and more clients that the top producers in this business and in most industries are the ones that hyper focus on one thing and do that great. and they don't deviate from that. They don't expand outside of that until they have mastered it and have a real good source of income coming from that one thing before they go out. And so that changed for me, right? And so it started becoming more about hyper focusing, understanding the client where they are, and then doubling down with them and saying, hey, I know you've thought about doing Medicare, but this is your bread and butter, life insurance, and you should not deviate from that. You need to master this and let me help you do that. And in 6 months, a year, when you're making good money and things are great, you can start expanding into other things. And so it's changed so many times since we started to what it is now. It's incredible.
Yeah, what you just described is a really common pattern in most businesses. Like if you talk to real estate guys and gals, they'll tell you, yeah, I started off doing five, six different things in the real estate model, right? They'll do a little bit of everything, rentals, multifamily, flipping, loaning, all kinds of random stuff. And then they find like their fine, comfort zone or what's that they're really good at. Same thing happens with digital marketers, right? They start off doing SEO and Facebook ads and AI and all kinds of stuff, and then they're like, okay, I just need to focus on this one thing to kind of get the ball rolling. And then the cycle kind of completes on its own, where once they're advanced enough, they have that authority in the space and they can expand then. Even then, they don't need to expand too drastically where they have 500 different things. It's just
Agreed.
like very, very, careful lateral integrations. Can you talk about you as a person? I know a lot of the glue in your business, from what I understand, is the personal branding kind of that kind of brought it all together. Yeah, so maybe let's talk about the third discussion point of this convo, which is how you leverage your personal branding, from what I understand. Can you shed light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just touch on what we were just talking about, because I think it's so important, right? That we start a business and we want to do a million things, right? We want to do sales, we want to do this, we want to do that. And it is so important. I think as you grow businesses and the more experience you have, you truly understand that it's about staying in your lane, right? And not doing a million other things. And I've had the opportunity to grow into other segments of this business, even just going outside of insurance agents, right? Like maybe I go after real estate agents, maybe I go after attorneys, but I really decided to stay true to this, focus on it. And I think it's been a big part of my success, right? It's because I haven't spread myself across so many industries, but rather focused on one thing. There's a great quote that I always listen to and follow, which is, you can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? You really have to pick your lane and you got to stick to it and give it time. So, um, now talking about like branding, personal brand, I am a huge proponent of it, and coming from a person that sells lead generation services, right? It's a bit counterintuitive, right? Because at nature, every client that comes through us, the first thing that I always say is, well, are you posting on social media, right? Like I know we're going to do paid ads for you, and we're going to get leads coming in for you through those ads, but what are you doing to build your brand online and for people to see that you are the person that they need to talk to, right? And I think now more than ever, personal brand is at the forefront, a fundamental piece in any business. Again, it's not going to get you leads or sales right away, but over time, it will become the majority of your business, referrals, organics that build. And so for me, that's been very, very important. And right now on my own business, 95% of our business is coming through organic, right? And that's because I've invested the time, the money. And when I first started, it was me doing every single video, right? It was me scripting my own videos. It was me editing, using CapCut, using all these things. And I kept doing it, right? And I will say this, that there's days where I didn't get any views on a video, right? Nobody clicked on it, nobody shared it, it did nothing. and I could have easily given up on it, right? And just tripled and quadrupled down on paid ads. But I understood that this is a machine that takes time to build. And so I didn't give up. I continued posting. I stayed consistent day in and day out. And I got, like I said, I got to the point where once you see one lead come in, right, it gives you steam to go again and to keep going and to keep going. And so that's what I did. I decided to have the discipline to not deviate from personal branding, to make sure that I continued to put myself out there, as difficult as it was. And on some days where you wake up and you're like, man, the last thing I want to do right now is make a video and put content out there. But you have to work through those things, because if you do, you become the person that people look at, right? You become the message. And that's what happened with me, right? I just continued the process. I knew that affiliate marketing was very important. So I tried to network with other people that are in the insurance space, that have YouTube channels, that have big presences on Instagram, on TikTok. And I would just reach out to those people and say, hey, how can we collab? Right? Can I interview you? Can you interview me? Can we make content together? And every one of those people always said yes. Right? And that's how I started really building my personal brand. Now, fast forward 3 years, I have 2 full-time editors. I have an entire team, and all I do is make the content and I hand it off, and they take it from there. And I'm telling you, I wish I could make more content, right? Because I'm right now posting once a day, sometimes twice a day, but I consistently want to get to a place where I'm doing 2 and 3 postings per day, because now I really see the value of it.
Yeah. From a sales standpoint, I bet the intention of the prospect changes when they come in knowing you are a person of authority, right?
Again, that for me is the high intent, right? Because the conversation already starts with most of my conversations. And now I have salespeople that do most of the calls, but I get on calls with like agency owners, right? Like a person that owns an insurance agency, and they might have 40 or 50 or 100 agents. And I get on the call, and it's always typically the same starting thing where they'll say, oh man, I've seen you on my feed for the last year, bro. Like I've seen you. You are everywhere, man. And it's so nice to be on a call with you. You sound like you know what you're talking about. And so if in sales, right, if I'm selling to you and we're both here at a level place, it's going to be a lot tougher for me to sell that product or service, right? Because you don't view me here, you view me as basically equals. And if we're equals, then why am I selling you something, right? And so coming from a place of authority levels the playing field, right? Where now they're getting on a call with me and they're saying, man, this guy knows everything about digital marketing for insurance agents. So I just need to follow the lead. And it is a very different conversation. And even now that we run paid ads, people are still seeing us, right? They're seeing me. Once they see my ad, then I'm following them all over the internet, and I'm re-delivering to them other pieces of content. They get on a call with us, and it's like, oh yeah, man, I've seen you on my feed for the last like 2 weeks, like, let's go, And so it's
Yeah.
a very, very different sale and a very different presentation for sure.
Yeah, so at 250, 270 plus appointments a month, what does your sales follow-up cadence look like? Do you follow up with someone for like 12 months at a time, or is it like rapid fire all up front in the first 14 days? Like what is the mentality there?
It's a heavy follow-up for the first 30 days, right? Very heavy in the first 7, right? Where that's the time that you really have to get that person on the phone and present or offer whatever it is you have. So in those first 7 days, obviously following all TCPA compliance and all regulations out there, but whatever the maximum is on that state, I'm going to send you that many messages and I'm going to make that many calls to you, right? Then after the first 7 days, after those first 7 days, it goes to every other day, right? For the rest of those 30 days. And then after 30 days, I give a break, right?
Yeah.
I stop reaching out to people for 2 weeks typically.
Yeah.
And after those 2 weeks, I send one message on the week after, two messages the week after that, and then I ramp up again. So from 30 days to 60 days, week one is one or two messages, week two is 4 to 5 messages, week three is 7 to 10, and I'm ramping back up because what I've noticed is that whatever percentage of sales you're going to get from a lead that you generate, right? You're not going to get all of those sales in the first week, right? You're going to get a percentage week one and week two. You're going to get a percentage week four and week five, and so on and so forth. So I think I mentioned this before. And then people just will shop, right, for a month straight, and then they're just exhausted. They don't want to talk to somebody if they haven't made a decision. They're like, I'm done. I'm just going to wait. I don't know where to go. And so I wait, because then after, when I contact them, nobody else is contacting them, right? Most people are done after the first couple of weeks. So I go heavy for about, probably about 3 months. And then I have nurture sequence that hits them again 6 months later, and so on. But the heavy lifting happens in those first 3 months.
And is that educational content still at that point, or now are we speaking specifically around an offer that maybe they potentially showed interest for, like, or is it like your, top of the funnel content?
It's no, once I have the lead, I like to showcase results, right? I like to feed those prospects or those leads. Hey, not sure how your lead generation is going, but here's an example of these 5 clients that are just like you, and here's what we're able to do, right? And so we showcase a lot of that, results, because typically somebody isn't converting because they really maybe don't know if you're going to be able to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. They're super skeptical. They've spent money in other places. And so I have found, again, over testing, right? And I tried educational content. I tried just straight hitting them with sales. I found that by giving people results, right, over and over and over again, and that person is seeing the pain points, right? Because they're paying, in my example, a client might be paying $30 for an insurance lead from a lead vendor, and I'm sending them weekly text that says, hey, look, here's a client that did $7 leads last week. That's hitting them, right? That's hitting them hard because they just dropped $30 for that lead that we can generate and help them generate for $7. And so for my industry, that's been what's worked the best, right? Results. And people will just respond at some point and go, all right, man, I'm done. I need to get on this because I'm paying $30 for a lead or whatever it is.
I love it. So we talked about three different things. First was creating a world of high intent. The second was visibility and automating that visibility. The third is really adding fuel to the fire with the personal branding. Um, Oscar, what are your final thoughts on the experiences that you've been through as we kind of close out the podcast?
Look, I think that if I can take away anything from business in general and from, people that are out there that want to use HighLevel as an instrument to sell a product or service, I think number one, the most important thing is to note and understand that HighLevel is not what's going to sell it, right? It's just going to be the instrument, because I see that a lot, right? I see a lot of people that will go, oh, I started my HighLevel account, I'm ready to make my first million. And there's no real offer or what you're actually going to sell people. So number one is figure out the need, right? Figure out what industry, right? Try to niche down. Don't try to help everyone. Try to help a small percentage of people in a business or an industry, and then figure out what their biggest pain points and needs are, and then create the offer based on that, and use HighLevel as the vehicle that helps you deliver those things for the client. If I had to do it all over again, that is exactly the roadmap that I would do. And I'm confident that whether I'm selling to attorneys, plumbers, carpenters, it doesn't matter. If you follow that structure, right, and you're disciplined with it, and you do the proper research, you will be able to succeed with a business, right? In general. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway that I think people listening to this could take from it, right? Is you gotta serve a purpose. You have to fill someone's need, and an app is not what they're looking for, right? And so hone in on that. Build your brand from day one. No matter what else you're doing, build your brand from day one, and stay disciplined on what you're doing, and you will succeed.
I love it. Oscar, well, thank you so much for jumping on a segment with us, man. There's a lot to take away here. If people want to find you and just engage with you, get on your calendar or even look at some of your products, how can they do that?
I'm on social media, plastered everywhere at Scale My Social on every platform. You can find my ugly face out there. So if I can help anyone, right, even if obviously you're not in the insurance business, but you want to bounce some ideas back and forth, you're starting things out, man, reach out to me because I love helping. I love talking business. And if I can be a help to anybody out there, I've had many people that have helped me along the way. So reach out to me and I'm happy to connect with you.
I love it. Well, thank you everyone for watching another episode of the High Level podcast called the Spotlight Session. Oscar, thank you for saying yes to us. I look forward to seeing you at one of our events in person or even online.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Bye for now.